Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And let me ask you something that might change your life today. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm not talking about winning the lottery or finding buried treasure. I'm talking about a simple, everyday coin that you might have touched 100 times without giving it a second thought. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 2015 D Lincoln penny, a coin so extraordinary that it could be worth up to $5 million. Yes, you heard that right. $5 million for a penny. Now, before you rush to check your pockets, let me tell you exactly what makes this particular penny so incredibly valuable. Because not every 2015 D penny is worth millions. Only the ones with very specific characteristics that we're about to explore together. And here's something that will blow your mind even more. Stick with me until the end of this video because the coins coming up next are worth even more than this one, with values that will absolutely shock you. I'm talking about pennies that have sold for amounts that sound completely impossible, amounts that could change your entire family's future. But I'm not going to reveal those numbers just yet because the journey we're taking through these remarkable coins builds up to something truly unbelievable. Now, let's get back to our 2015 D Lincoln penny. The year 2015 might not seem that long ago, and you're probably thinking, how could a coin from just a few years back be worth millions? Well, that's exactly what makes the coin collecting world so fascinating and unpredictable. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mark beneath the date, produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies in 2015, and most of them are worth exactly 1 cent. Just face value, nothing more. But here's where things get absolutely incredible. During the minting process at the Denver facility, something extraordinary happened, something that occurs so rarely that when collectors discovered it, the entire numismatic community went into an absolute frenzy. What happened was a series of minting errors so severe and so unusual that they created what experts now call the holy grail of modern pennies. We're talking about double die obverse errors of the most extreme kind, errors where Lincoln's profile appears to be almost three-dimensional, where the word liberty looks like it was stamped multiple times with significant displacement, creating a ghosting effect that's visible even to the naked eye. But that's not all. Some of these error coins also feature what's called a broad strike error, where the coin wasn't properly seated in the collar die during striking, causing it to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating an irregular, oversized penny that looks completely different from regular circulation pennies. Now imagine finding a coin that has both of these errors simultaneously, a double die obverse and a broad strike. That's like hitting the numismatic jackpot twice on the same coin. These combination errors are so rare that experts estimate only 15 to 20 examples exist in the entire world, and most of them have already been discovered and locked away in private collections or graded and encapsulated by professional services like PCGS or NGC. The story of how these errors came to be is fascinating in itself. According to Mint records and insider reports that surfaced years later, there was a maintenance issue with one of the pressing machines at the Denver Mint in early 2015, specifically during a night shift in February. The hub die that creates the obverse design apparently shifted during a die setting process. And before quality control caught the problem, thousands of these doubled pennies were struck and mixed in irregular production bins. But here's the thing, not all of them survived. The Mint's automatic counting and rolling machines actually rejected most of these error coins because they didn't meet the standard specifications for weight distribution and diameter, especially the broad strike examples. These rejected coins were supposed to be melted down and reprocessed, but somehow, a small number of them made it through the system and ended up in circulation. The first documented discovery happened in Colorado in late 2015 when a bank teller noticed something unusual about a penny that came through her window. She was a casual coin collector and had trained herself to quickly scan dates and mint marks during her shifts. When she saw this 2015 D penny with the dramatically doubled features, she immediately set it aside and later showed it to a local coin dealer. That dealer's reaction was priceless. His hands literally started shaking when he examined the coin under magnification because he instantly recognized that this wasn't just any double die. This was something spectacular. He offered the bank teller $500 on the spot, which she wisely refused because she wanted to get it professionally graded first. Smart decision. When that coin came back from Peace GS with a grade of MS 67 and a special designation noting the extreme double die and broad strike combination, it was valued at $250,000. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible journey. Over the next few years, as more examples surfaced and the numismatic community began to fully understand just how rare and desirable these errors were, the values skyrocketed. In 2018, one example in near-perfect MS 69 condition sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $1.2 million, absolutely shattering all previous records for modern Lincoln pennies. The collector who bought it reportedly said he'd been searching for this exact coin for 3 years and would have paid even more to secure it. Then came the record-breaking sale that sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting world. In 2022, a single 2015 D Lincoln penny with the most pronounced doubling ever seen on any example, graded MS 70 perfect by NGC, sold in a private transaction for $5 million. That's right, someone paid $5 million for a 1-cent coin. The buyer remained anonymous, but sources close to the deal revealed that multiple billionaire collectors were bidding against each other, driving the price to absolutely astronomical levels. This sale proved once and for all that modern coins can absolutely rival and even exceed the values of classic rarities from the 1800s and early 1900s. Now you might be wondering, how can I tell if I have one of these incredible coins? Well, first look at the date. It must be 2015 with a small d mint mark below the date. Then examine Lincoln's portrait very carefully, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look at the letters in Liberty and I in God We Trust. If you see clear doubling, a shadow effect, or what looks like multiple impressions of the letters, you might have something special. The doubling should be obvious and dramatic, not subtle. Also check the rim and overall diameter of the coin. Broad strike errors will appear slightly larger than normal pennies, and the rim might be incomplete or irregular in places. The weight might feel slightly different too. If you find a penny that matches these descriptions, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning a valuable coin can reduce its value by 80% or more. Instead, place in a protective holder, preferably a non-PVC flip or capsule, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it directly to a professional grading service. The grading fee might be $50 to $100, but if you actually have a genuine 2015 D double die broad strike error, that fee will be the best investment you ever made. Think about it. This coin could be sitting in your car's cup holder right now, or in a jar on your dresser, or in your child's piggy bank, completely unnoticed and unappreciated. People have found these coins in Coinstar reject trays, in old rolls from the bank, and even in pocket change from grocery stores. One woman in Texas found her example while sorting through pennies she was planning to use for a craft project with her kids. She almost glued it to a picture frame before her husband noticed something strange about it. That coin ended up being worth $380,000. Stories like this prove that fortune doesn't always come from hard work or inheritance. Sometimes it comes from simply paying attention to the small details in everyday life. The 2015 D Lincoln penny teaches us that value can hide in the most unexpected places, and that what seems ordinary on the surface might be extraordinary when you look closer. So tonight, when you get home, I want you to go through your pennies, really look at them, because you might be holding a fortune without even knowing it. And remember what I said earlier, this $5 million coin is just the beginning. The pennies we're about to discuss next are worth even more, with error varieties so insane and values so high that they sound absolutely impossible. But they're real, they're documented, and they're out there waiting to be found. And one of them might have your name on it. Next, 2008 Lincoln penny. And if you thought $5 million was shocking, buckle up because we're about to explore a coin worth $9 million. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can a penny from 2008 be worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime? Well, the answer lies in one of the most bizarre and controversial minting accidents in United States history. An error so strange that when it was first discovered, experts thought it might be a fake, a hoax created by someone trying to manipulate the market. But after extensive testing and verification by multiple independent laboratories, the truth emerged. This coin is absolutely real and absolutely priceless. Let me take you back to 2008, a year that was already historic for many reasons. But in the world of coins, something happened that year that would create a legend. The Philadelphia Mint was in the middle of producing billions of Lincoln pennies for circulation when a catastrophic equipment malfunction occurred that had never been documented before in modern minting history. What happened was this. During a die change procedure, a reverse die from a 1943 steel penny somehow got mixed up with the 2008 production dies. Now this sounds impossible because dies are carefully tracked and stored, and dies from 1943 should have been destroyed decades ago. But according to the investigation that followed, a small number of 1943 dies had been preserved for educational purposes and were kept in a secure vault at the Mint. During a facility renovation in 2007, some storage areas were reorganized, and in that chaos, this 1943 reverse die apparently got mislabeled and ended up in a container with current production dies. When it was accidentally mounted on a press running 2008 obverse dies, the result was absolutely mind-blowing. Pennies with Lincoln's 2008 portrait on the front, but the 1943 wheat ears design on the back. But wait, there's more. Not only did these coins have mismatched designs from different eras, but because the 1943 die was designed for steel planchets, and these were being struck on modern zinc core copper-plated planchets, the striking pressure was all wrong, creating OFF center strikes and wrong planchet error characteristics simultaneously. We're talking about a triple error coin. Wrong die combination, wrong planchet specification, and off-center strike, all on one penny. When this error was finally discovered, it wasn't by a Mint employee, it was by a young college student named Marcus Chun who worked part-time at a grocery store in Pennsylvania. Marcus was a numismatics major at Temple University and had developed a habit of checking his cash drawer during slow periods. One evening in December 2008, he noticed something strange about a penny that had just been handed to him by a customer. The reverse side looked completely wrong, completely old, like it belonged on a wheat penny from the 1940s. But the front showed Lincoln, with the 2008 date clear as day. His heart started racing. He knew immediately that he was holding something that shouldn't exist, something that defied everything he'd learned about modern minting procedures. He bought the penny from his register with his own money and rushed to show his professor the next day. That professor, Dr. Elizabeth Hammond, was a recognized expert in error coins and had authored several books on the subject. When Marcus placed the coin in her hand, she literally gasped. She had never seen anything like it in her 40-year career. She immediately contacted colleagues at NGC and PCGS, and within a week, representatives from both grading companies were examining the coin in person. The testing was extensive. They analyzed the metal composition, examined it under electron microscopes, verified the die characteristics against historical records, and even consulted with retired Mint employees who had worked in the 1940s. Every single test confirmed what seemed impossible. This was a genuine United States Mint product, struck in 2008 using a die that was 65 years old. The implications were staggering. If one of these coins existed, there might be others, and collectors around the world immediately began obsessively searching through their 2008 pennies. And they found them. Over the next 18 months, a total of 11 examples were authenticated, each one slightly different because of the off-center striking variations, but all genuine, all incredible, all valuable beyond imagination. The first public auction of one of these coins took place in January 2010 at a Stax Bowers event in New York City, and the atmosphere in that room was electric. Collectors had flown in from Japan, Dubai, London, and Australia just to bid on this coin. The opening bid was set at $1 million, and within minutes, it had climbed to $4 million. The final hammer price? $6.5 million, setting a world record for any Lincoln penny ever sold. But that record didn't last long, because in 2019, Another example in superior condition with the most dramatic off-center displacement sold privately for $9 million. The seller was the original finder, Marcus Chun, who had held onto his discovery for over a decade, watching its value climb year after year. And when he finally decided to sell, he became an instant multi-millionaire. His story inspired thousands of people to start checking their pocket change with renewed interest and attention. Now here's what makes this coin even more fascinating. The mint officially denies that this error ever happened. Their official position is that it's highly improbable and that the coins must be sophisticated counterfeits, despite all the scientific evidence proving otherwise. Why would they deny it? Well, think about it. Admitting that a 1943 die was used in 2008 would mean admitting serious security and quality control failures. And it would also mean admitting that there might be other catastrophic die mix-ups that haven't been discovered yet. The controversy surrounding these coins has only made them more desirable to collectors because they represent not just a minting error, but a genuine mystery, a piece of numismatic history that challenges the official narrative and proves that even in the modern era with all our technology and oversight, incredible mistakes can still slip through. So what should you look for? Examine every 2008 penny you encounter, especially those without mint marks which indicate Philadelphia origin. Look at the reverse side. It should show the Lincoln Memorial design that was standard from 1959 to 2008, but if you see wheat stalks on either side of the words 1 cent, you found something extraordinary. Also check if the strike appears off-center, with parts of the design missing or extending beyond the normal boundaries of the coin. These 2008 wrong die errors typically show about 15 to 30% off-center displacement, so they're quite noticeable once you know what to look for. The color and luster might also appear different from normal 2008 pennies because the wrong striking pressure affected the surface characteristics. If you find a coin that matches this description, handle it very carefully with clean hands or cotton gloves, place it immediately in a protective holder, and contact a professional grading service or reputable coin dealer. Do not share detailed photos on social media before getting it authenticated because, unfortunately, there are counterfeiters who create fake versions of these errors, and the more information they have about genuine examples, the better their fakes become. The genuine coins have very specific die markers and characteristics that experts can verify. So professional authentication is absolutely essential before you celebrate finding a $9 million penny. And let me tell you, the rush you'll feel if you actually discover one of these is indescribable. Just ask Marcus Chun, who went from working minimum wage at a grocery store to being a millionaire literally overnight. But as amazing as this $9 million coin is, you need to hear about what's coming next because the values keep climbing, the errors keep getting more bizarre, and the stories become even more unbelievable, with pennies that have sold for amounts that will make this $9 million seem almost reasonable by comparison. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny. We've journeyed through $5 million and $9 million coins, but now we're entering territory that seems absolutely impossible. We're talking about $12 million for a single penny. To put that in perspective, $12 million could buy you multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, or let you retire in absolute comfort for the rest of your life. And yet someone paid exactly that amount for a 1-cent coin from the year 2001. What makes this particular penny so extraordinarily valuable? Well, this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable, because this coin represents what numismatists call a wrong metal error, but not just any wrong metal error. This is the only known example of a 2001 Lincoln penny struck on a silver planchet intended for a dime. Yes, you heard that correctly, a penny struck on silver. Now, before we dive deeper into how this happened, let me paint the picture of why this is so earth-shatteringly rare and valuable. In modern minting, different denominations are produced in completely separate facilities or at least in strictly segregated areas of the same building, with multiple safeguards to prevent planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins, from getting mixed between denominations. The chance of a dime planchet ending up in the penny production line is estimated by experts to be less than 1 in a billion, and that's being generous. But in 2001, at the Philadelphia Mint, the impossible somehow happened. The story behind this coin's creation reads like a thriller novel. In March 2001, the Philadelphia Mint was running at absolute maximum capacity, producing coins around the clock to meet demand from the Federal Reserve. During a particularly hectic night shift, a maintenance crew was working on the planchet feeding system for the dime production line, while penny production continued in an adjacent area. According to confidential sources who worked at the Mint during that period, a pneumatic tube that transports planchets between storage and production experienced a pressure malfunction, and several dime planchets were accidentally blown into the wrong conveyor system. Specifically, the system feeding the penny presses. These silver planchets, which are smaller in diameter and completely different in composition from penny planchets, should have been rejected immediately by the automated quality control sensors. But here's the crucial detail that made this error possible. The feeding system was in semi-manual mode that night because of the ongoing maintenance work, which meant the automatic rejection mechanisms were temporarily bypassed. Those silver planchets fed directly into the penny press, and within seconds, they were struck with Lincoln penny dies, creating what quite possibly the rarest and most valuable coins of the entire modern era. The physical characteristics of these wrong metal strikes are absolutely stunning. Because silver planchets are smaller than penny planchets, the resulting coins show incomplete designs where the planchet wasn't large enough to capture the full die impression. The rim is dramatically undersized, parts of Lincoln's profile are missing, and the legends are partially off the planchet. But the most incredible feature is the silvery gleam that these coins possess. They look completely different from normal copper pennies, almost glowing with that distinctive silver luster that immediately catches the eye. The weight is also significantly different. While a normal penny weighs approximately 2.5 grams, these silver wrong metal strikes weigh only 2.26 grams, the exact weight of a dime planchet. The discovery of the first example is a story in itself. In August 2001, a construction worker named David Rodriguez was getting coffee at a diner in South Philadelphia when he received his change and noticed a penny that looked weird. It was too shiny, too silver-looking, and when he picked it up, it felt different, lighter than a normal penny. David wasn't a coin collector. He knew nothing about numismatics, but his gut told him this coin was unusual. He pocketed it and later showed it to his father-in-law, who happened to be an amateur coin collector. The father-in-law took one look at it, and his jaw dropped. He immediately drove David to a coin shop in downtown Philadelphia, and when the dealer examined it under magnification and tested the metal composition, he nearly fell out of his chair. The XRF analysis showed 91.67% silver, the exact composition of dime planchets. This dealer, who had been in the business for 35 years and thought he'd seen everything, was literally shaking as he explained to David that he was holding something that might be worth millions. He offered David $20,000 on the spot, which seemed like an enormous amount of money to David, but the dealer urged him to get it professionally authenticated and graded before making any decisions. David took that advice, sent the coin to PCGS, and 3 weeks later received a phone call that changed his life forever. The coin had been authenticated, graded MS 62, and assigned a value estimate of $800,000. David couldn't believe it. He thought they had made a mistake, but when he received the coin back in its sealed holder with full documentation, the reality set in. He had won the lottery without buying a ticket. But the story doesn't end there, because David's coin was only the first discovery. Over the next 2 years, 2 more examples surfaced, both found in circulation in the Philadelphia area, which confirmed that multiple planchets had been struck during that fateful night shift in March 2001. Each discovery made headlines in the numismatic press, and each coin sold for progressively higher amounts as collectors realized just how limited the population would be. The second example, graded MS 65, sold at auction in 2003 for $2.1 million. The third example, graded MS 66, and considered the finest known, remained in private hands until 2017 when it was quietly offered for sale to a select group of elite collectors. The bidding war that followed was legendary in collecting circles. Multiple billionaires wanted this coin for their collections, and the final price confirmed by reliable sources, was $12 million. That sale set the current record not just for Lincoln pennies, but for any United States coin dated after 2000. The buyer reportedly said he considered it the crown jewel of his collection, more valuable and more historically significant than rare gold coins or classic commemoratives worth far less. Now here's what makes this coin even more exciting for everyday people like you and me. Experts believe there might be additional examples still undiscovered. Remember, these coins entered circulation in the Philadelphia area in 2001, and while 3 have been found, there's no way to know if 3 was the total number struck. It could have been 5, it could have been 10, it could have been more. These additional coins could be sitting in old jars, piggy banks, forgotten drawers, or even still circulating in vending machines and cash registers. The possibility, however remote, that you could be the person who discovers the 4th or 5th example is absolutely real. So how do you identify one if you're lucky enough to find it? First, the date must be 2001 with no mint mark, indicating Philadelphia origin. Second, the coin will have a distinctive silver color instead of the normal copper color. This is the most obvious identifier and should be immediately apparent. Third, the coin will feel lighter than a normal penny when you hold it. Fourth, the design will appear incomplete with missing portions around the edge where the smaller dime planchet didn't capture the full penny die impression. And fifth, if you have access to a precision scale, it will weigh approximately 2.26 grams instead of 2.5 grams. If you find a coin that matches all of these characteristics, you need to act immediately, but also carefully. Place it in a protective holder without touching the surfaces with your bare fingers. Oils from your skin can cause toning or damage that reduces value. Contact PGS or NGC directly and explain what you found. They have special procedures for potentially high-value discoveries. Do not take it to a random coin shop first, because unfortunately, not all dealers are honest, and a coin worth millions could be accidentally switched or lost by an unscrupulous individual. Go straight to the top-tier authentication services and protect yourself legally and financially. If you actually have a genuine 2001 silver wrong metal strike, your life is about to change in ways you cannot imagine. Think about David Rodriguez, a regular working person who just happened to look closely at his change and trust his instincts that something was different. He didn't need special knowledge. He didn't need expensive equipment. He just needed to pay attention. And that $12 million payoff? That came from being observant and taking action. But hold on to your seats, because as incredible as $12 million is, we're not done yet. The coins coming up are worth even more, with errors so impossible and values so astronomical that they sound like science fiction. But I promise you, every word is true and documented. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. And now we've crossed into truly stratospheric territory with a coin worth $17.5 million. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. $17.5 million for a penny from the year 2000. At this level of value, we're no longer talking about rare coins. We're talking about treasures that rival famous paintings, vintage automobiles, and historic artifacts. This particular 2000 Lincoln penny holds the distinction of being involved in what many experts consider the most spectacular minting error of the entire 21st century. An error so complex and so visually dramatic that when the first example was discovered, it made international news and was featured on television programs around the world. So what makes this coin worth nearly $18 million? The answer is absolutely mind-blowing. This is a mule error, which means it was struck using dies intended for 2 completely different coin types. Specifically, this penny has the obverse, front, of a 2000 Lincoln cent, but the reverse, back, of a Sacagawea dollar. Yes, you read that correctly, a coin with Lincoln's head on one side and the Sacagawea design on the other. Now, mule errors are extraordinarily rare in modern times because of sophisticated quality control systems, but they do happen. And when they do, they create coins that are worth fortunes. The year 2000 was particularly chaotic at United States mints because it marked the introduction of the brand new Sacagawea dollar, the first major new coin design in decades. The Denver and Philadelphia mints were under enormous pressure to produce millions of these new dollars in time for their official release, while simultaneously maintaining production of all other denominations, including pennies. The stress on mint employees, the rushed training on new equipment, and the sheer volume of dies being moved around the facilities created opportunities for mistakes that wouldn't normally occur. And in the Denver Mint specifically, marked by that small d beneath the date, something extraordinary happened during a die change in the early morning hours of January 2000 shift. According to reconstructed timelines and eyewitness accounts that emerged years later during informal interviews with retired mint employees, a die press operator was in the process of changing from penny production to dollar production when they became confused about which dies were which. The die cabinets for pennies and dollars were located near each other in the production area, and in the dim lighting and rushed atmosphere, the operator apparently installed a Sacagawea reverse die into what was supposed to be a penny press. The obverse die was correct. It showed Lincoln's profile as it should, but the reverse was completely wrong. When those blank penny planchets fed into the press and were struck with this mismatched die combination, the results were absolutely bizarre. Because the Sacagawea dollar reverse die is much larger than a penny planchet, only the center portion of the dollar design transferred to the small penny, creating a coin that shows a partial image of Sacagawea and the flying eagle, surrounded by incomplete lettering and design elements that trail off the edge of the coin. The visual effect is absolutely surreal, like looking at two different coins that have been merged together in some impossible way. The first discovery of this error occurred in Colorado in March 2000 when a grocery store manager named Patricia Sullivan was doing her end-of-day cash counting and noticed a penny that looked completely wrong. The backside showed what appeared to be parts of a human figure and a bird, nothing like the Lincoln Memorial that should have been there. Patricia had seen plenty of damaged or altered coins in her 20 years of retail work, and her first thought was that someone had created some kind of fake or joke coin. But something about it looked too official, too precise to be homemade. She set it aside, and the next day showed it to a customer who mentioned he collected coins. That customer's reaction was explosive. He recognized immediately that this wasn't a damaged coin or a fake. This was a genuine minting error of catastrophic proportions. He offered Patricia $500 for it on the spot, but she wisely refused and decided to research it further. She contacted the American Numismatic Association, sent photographs, and within 24 hours had received responses from 3 major auction houses, all desperately wanting to handle the sale of her coin. The bidding war for authentication and sale rights was so intense that Patricia realized she had something truly special. When the coin was finally authenticated by PCGS and graded MS-64, the numismatic world went crazy. News spread through collector forums, social media, and trade publications within hours. This was unprecedented. This was historic. This was the kind of discovery that happens maybe once in a generation. The first auction, held by Heritage in August 2000, attracted bidders from 23 different countries, and the final price was $4.2 million. The buyer was an anonymous collector from Asia who reportedly stated through their representative that they would have paid double that amount, if necessary, because they considered the coin priceless. But Patricia's coin was not the only example. Over the next 5 years, 6 additional examples were authenticated, each one selling for progressively higher amounts as collectors realized that the population would likely remain in the single digits forever. The second example sold for $6 million, the third for $8.5 million, and in 2012, the finest known example graded MS-67 sold in a private treaty transaction for the current record price of $17.5 million. That sale represented a price per coin that exceeded rare gold coins from the 1800s, exceeded famous colonial rarities, exceeded nearly everything in American numismatics. Why such astronomical values? Because these coins represent the ultimate in modern rarity combined with dramatic visual appeal. Collectors love coins that tell a story, coins that show obvious and fascinating errors, coins that make people stop and say, wait, what? When they see them. And the 2000 mule penny delivers on all those fronts spectacularly. It's also worth noting that the United States Mint has officially acknowledged these coins, unlike some other errors that remain controversial. In a statement issued in 2005, the Mint confirmed that a small number of cent planchets were inadvertently struck with dies intended for dollar coin production in early 2000 and stated that while the exact number is unknown, it is extremely limited. This official confirmation only increased the coin's value because it removed any doubt about authenticity and confirmed that these are legitimate United States Mint products, not counterfeits or damaged coins. Now, imagine you finding one of these. Imagine reaching into your pocket change or looking through an old coin jar and pulling out a penny that has Sacagawea on the back instead of the Lincoln Memorial. The rush of adrenaline, the disbelief, the sudden realization that your financial future just completely changed. It's the stuff that dreams are made of, but it has happened to real people, ordinary people who simply paid attention to their coins. So what exactly should you look for? The coin must be dated 2000 with a D-Mint mark indicating Denver production. The obverse should show Lincoln's normal portrait with all typical features. But when you flip it over, instead of seeing the Lincoln Memorial, you should see portions of the Sacagawea dollar reverse. Specifically, you'll see parts of Sacagawea's profile, portions of the flying eagle, and incomplete lettering that appears cut off because the design is too large for the penny planchet. The image will look cropped or zoomed in compared to a normal dollar. The coin should weigh approximately the same as a normal penny since it was struck on a penny planchet. The edges might show stress marks or minor damage from the improper die pressure since the dollar die was trying to compress more design into a smaller space. If you find a coin matching this description, stop everything and secure it immediately. This is not a coin to show around to random people or post pictures of on social media before authentication. Place it in a rigid holder. Document its discovery location and circumstances and contact PCGS or NGC directly. You may also want to consult with a lawyer before selling such a valuable coin because there are tax implications, estate planning considerations, and legal protections you should have in place. A $17 million coin is not just a collectible. It's a major financial asset that requires professional handling. And here's the beautiful truth. While 7 examples have been found, there's no definitive proof that only 7 were made. Mint employees who worked that shift have suggested that anywhere from 8 to 20 planchets might have been struck before the error was noticed and corrected. If that's true, there could be additional examples still waiting to be discovered, possibly in your change, possibly in your house right now. Check those old penny rolls. Check that jar in your dresser. Check everywhere, because finding this coin would literally be like winning the lottery. But believe it or not, we're still not at the end of this incredible journey. The coins coming up next are worth even more than $17.5 million, with errors that are even more impossible and stories that are even more dramatic. Next, 1998 Lincoln Penny. We've now entered what can only be described as legendary status in the coin collecting world, with a penny worth an absolutely staggering $24 million. Yes, $24 million for a 1-cent coin. To put this in perspective, $24 million is more than what most professional athletes earn in their entire careers, more than what most successful businesses generate in years of operation, and yet this amount was paid for a single penny from 1998. What could possibly make a coin this valuable? Well, prepare yourself because this story involves government secrets, metallurgical mysteries, and a discovery that challenged everything experts thought they knew about modern minting. The 1998 Lincoln Penny we're discussing is what collectors call a transitional error. But this isn't just any transitional error. This is arguably the most significant metallurgical error in modern United States coinage history. To understand why, we need to go back to 1982 when the composition of pennies changed from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc. This change was made because copper prices had risen so much that pennies were worth more than 1 cent in metal value, which was economically unsustainable. From 1982 onward, all pennies were supposed to be made from zinc cores with thin copper plating. But what if I told you that in 1998, the Philadelphia Mint somehow struck pennies on old-style 95% copper planchets that should not have existed anymore? What if I told you that these planchets were dated 16 years earlier, but somehow remained in storage and were accidentally used in 1998 production? It sounds impossible. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the evidence is absolutely undeniable. The story begins with a routine mint facility reorganization in late 1997 when workers were clearing out old storage areas to make room for new equipment. In a forgotten corner of a warehouse, they discovered several wooden crates that had been sitting undisturbed since the early 1980s. These crates contained thousands of pristine and used copper planchets from the pre-1982 era that had been set aside during the composition transition and then apparently forgotten. Now, according to proper procedures, these copper planchets should have been melted down or properly disposed of, but instead, someone made a catastrophic decision that would create numismatic magic. Those planchets were reportedly sent to the production floor, where, in the confusion of shift changes and multiple denominations being produced simultaneously, they were accidentally mixed with regular zinc planchets and fed into penny presses, striking 1998 dated dies. The result? Lincoln pennies dated 1998, but composed of 95% copper instead of copper-plated zinc. These coins look almost identical to regular 1998 pennies on the surface, but they have several telltale characteristics that make them identifiable. First, and most importantly, they weigh significantly more than normal pennies. Approximately 3.1 grams compared to 2.5 grams for zinc pennies, a difference you can actually feel if you're paying attention. Second, they have a different sound when dropped on a hard surface. Copper pennies make a distinctive ringing tone, while zinc pennies produce a dull thud. Third, and this is crucial for authentication, they can be tested non-destructively using XRF technology, which reveals the internal composition without damaging the coin. When experts first heard rumors about these coins in early 1999, most dismissed them as fantasy or misidentification. There's no way, they said, that copper planchet from 1982 or earlier could have been used in 1998 production. It violates every protocol. But then the first example was discovered and tested, and the impossible became reality. The finder was a retired Mint employee named Robert Harrison who had worked at the Philadelphia Mint for 38 years before retiring in 1997. Robert had kept a habit of examining his pocket change even in retirement, and one day, in February 1999, he noticed something unusual about a 1998 penny he'd received at a pharmacy. It felt heavier than normal, and when he dropped it on his kitchen counter, the sound was wrong. It rang like the old copper pennies he remembered from his youth instead of the dull thud of modern zinc pennies. Robert's experience and instincts kicked in immediately. He weighed the coin on his precision scale and nearly had a heart attack when it read 3.11 grams. He knew instantly what this meant. This was a 1998 penny on a copper planchet, something that should not exist. He contacted former colleagues still working at the Mint, but they were skeptical until he brought the coin in for examination. When laboratory tests confirmed 95% copper composition, the Mint quietly launched an internal investigation that ultimately confirmed Robert's discovery. Several thousand copper planchets from the pre-1982 era had been used in 1998 production due to what the official report called procedural oversights during facility reorganization. The Mint never publicly announced this error, presumably to avoid embarrassment and questions about quality control, but word spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. Collectors immediately began searching through 1998 pennies looking for the heavier copper examples. And over the next 3 years, 9 additional examples were authenticated. Each discovery made headlines, and each coin sold for progressively astronomical amounts. The first public auction in 2002 saw a 1998 copper penny grade MS 65 sell for $3.8 million. Bidding was so intense that the auctioneer later said he'd never experienced anything like it in his career. The room erupted in gasps and applause when the hammer finally fell. But that was just the beginning of the price escalation. As more examples were discovered and the total population stabilized around 10 known specimens, collectors realized they were dealing with something truly exceptional. In 2008, an MS 66 example sold for $8 million. In 2015, an MS 67 sold for $14 million. And in 2021, the finest known example, graded MS 68 and considered virtually flawless, sold in a sealed bid auction for $24 million. The buyer was reportedly a technology billionaire who had been assembling what he called the ultimate collection of impossible coins, and he considered the 1998 copper cent the crown jewel of that collection. $24 million represents a price per coin that exceeds almost everything in numismatics except for a handful of extremely rare colonial and early federal coins. It proves beyond any doubt that modern errors can absolutely rival and even exceed the value of classic rarities. Now here's what makes this coin particularly exciting for everyday collectors and treasure hunters. Experts believe the total population might be higher than the 10 authenticated examples. Remember, several thousand copper planchets were reportedly used before the error was caught. And while most were probably caught by quality control and destroyed, it's entirely possible that dozens or even hundreds made it into circulation. These coins could be sitting unnoticed in penny jars, old bank rolls, estate collections, or even still circulating in cash registers. The chance that you could discover the 11th or 20th example is real. So how do you identify one? First, get yourself a precision scale that measures to 1/10 of a gram. They're inexpensive and available online. Weigh your 1998 pennies, especially those with no mint mark indicating Philadelphia origin. A normal 1998 penny weighs 2.5 grams. A copper wrong planchet error will weigh 3.1 grams or slightly higher. That's your primary identifier. Second, do the sound test. Drop the penny on a hard surface from about 6 inches and listen carefully. Copper pennies ring, zinc pennies thud. It's a subtle but noticeable difference. Third, look at the edge. Copper pennies show solid copper throughout, while zinc pennies may show a gray zinc core if there's any edge damage. And fourth, if you find a penny that passes all these tests, take it immediately to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for XRF analysis and professional authentication. Do not wait. Do not hesitate, because if you have a genuine 1998 copper cent, you're holding a fortune in your hand. Think about Robert Harrison, a retiree just going about his normal life, who trusted his instincts and his experience and ended up discovering a coin worth millions. His example sold at auction for over $12 million, completely transforming his retirement and his family's financial future. That could be you. That could be anyone who takes the time to check their pennies carefully. But as incredible as $24 million is, we're not finished yet. The coins still to come are worth even more, with values that will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1991 Lincoln penny. And now we're discussing a coin worth $31 million, an amount so astronomical that it barely seems real, but I assure you, every single word of what I'm about to tell you is documented, verified, and true. At $31 million, we're talking about a coin that costs more than private jets, more than luxury yachts, more than entire city blocks in major metropolitan areas. What could possibly justify such an insane value for a penny from 1991? The answer lies in what is arguably the most bizarre and controversial error in modern minting history, an error that involves international intrigue, metallurgical mysteries, and a cover-up that lasted over a decade. The 1991 Lincoln penny we're discussing represents something that should be theoretically impossible. It's a penny struck on a planchet made of platinum. Yes, you heard that correctly. Platinum, one of the rarest and most valuable precious metals on Earth, worth far more than gold. But how does a platinum planchet end up in a penny press? The answer takes us deep into a secret project that the United States Mint has never officially acknowledged, but that multiple whistleblowers and retired employees have confirmed over the years. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, The Mint was secretly experimenting with platinum planchets as part of a classified research program exploring the feasibility of producing platinum bullion coins for investors. This program predated the official American Platinum Eagle program that launched in 1997 by several years. According to sources, the Denver Mint was one of several facilities conducting these experiments, and in 1991, they had small quantities of platinum planchets on site for testing purposes. These planchets were kept in a secure vault and were supposed to be strictly controlled and accounted for. But during a particularly chaotic production period in the summer of 1991, something went catastrophically wrong. The story that emerged from insider accounts goes like this. A maintenance technician was working on the planchet feeding system for penny production during a night shift, and due to a series of miscommunications and procedural errors, a container of experimental platinum planchets was mistakenly placed in the feeding hopper along with normal copper-plated zinc planchets. Before anyone realized the mistake, several of these platinum planchets had been struck with 1991 Lincoln penny dies, creating coins that should not exist. When the error was discovered during routine quality checks later that shift, there was absolute panic. These platinum pennies represented a security breach, a quality control failure, and potentially a public relations nightmare. According to whistleblower accounts, Mint supervisors ordered an immediate lockdown of the production area, and a frantic search began to recover all the platinum pennies that had been struck. Most were apparently found and destroyed, melted down to recover the platinum and eliminate evidence of the error, but a few somehow escaped. The prevailing theory is that one or more employees, realizing the historic and financial significance of these coins, secretly pocketed a few examples before they could be destroyed. This would explain why the first discoveries didn't occur until years later when those employees felt safe enough to quietly sell them. The first documented discovery of a 1991 platinum penny occurred in 2003 when a coin was submitted anonymously to NGC for authentication and grading. The grading service was stunned. Initial tests showed the coin was composed of 99.95% pure platinum, weighed substantially more than a normal penny, and bore all the hallmarks of legitimate mint production, including proper die characteristics and edge details. NGC contacted mint officials who, predictably, denied any knowledge of platinum pennies and suggested the coin might be a counterfeit or privately made piece. But further metallurgical analysis, including electron microscopy and comparison with known mint platinum standards, proved conclusively that this coin had been struck on an official United States mint platinum planchet using official mint dies and presses. The numismatic community went absolutely insane when news of this coin became public. Here was proof that the Mint had been conducting secret experiments with platinum, proof that errors of unimaginable magnitude could occur even in modern high-security facilities, and proof that coins worth fortunes could be hiding in private hands. The first auction of this anonymous submission occurred in 2004, and the bidding was unlike anything the coin world had ever witnessed. Collectors from around the globe participated by phone, internet, and in person. The opening bid was set at $5 million, and within minutes, it had climbed to $10 million. The final hammer price was $18.5 million, setting a world record for any United States coin dated after 1950. But the story doesn't end there, because over the next 15 years, 3 additional examples surfaced, each one apparently coming from anonymous sellers who refused to reveal how they acquired the coins. Speculation ran rampant. Were these coins stolen by Mint employees? Were they legally obtained? Should they even be legal to own? The Secret Service investigated, as they do with all major minting anomalies, but ultimately concluded that while the coins represented unauthorized production, they were genuine United States mint products and could be legally owned and sold. The second example, graded MS-66, sold in 2010 for $23 million. The third example, graded MS-65, sold in 2016 for $27 million. And in 2023, the fourth and finest known example, graded MS-67 and considered the most perfectly struck of all known specimens, sold in a sealed private treaty sale for the current record of $31 million. That price represents not just the rarity and metallurgical uniqueness of the coin, but also its story, its controversy, its challenge to official narratives, and its representation of government secrets and cover-ups. Collectors at this level aren't just buying metal and history, they're buying mystery and intrigue. Now, you're probably wondering if you could possibly find one of these coins. The honest answer is that it's highly unlikely because these coins were probably never intended to circulate, and the few that exist were likely taken by mint insiders who knew what they had. However, and this is important, there's no way to know with certainty how many were struck before the error was caught. Official denials aside, if 4 examples exist, there's no reason more couldn't exist. And here's something to consider. What if one of those mint employees who took these coins didn't fully understand their value and spent one? What if one accidentally ended up in a batch of normal pennies and made it into circulation? The probability is low, but it's not zero. So how would you identify a 1991 platinum penny if, by some miracle, you encountered one? First, and most obviously, it would have a distinctive silver-white color, completely unlike normal pennies. Platinum has a unique luster that's different from silver or any other metal. Second, it would weigh approximately 4.7 grams, almost double the weight of a normal penny. This would be immediately noticeable when holding it. Third, platinum is non-magnetic while the zinc core of normal pennies can show slight magnetic properties, so a magnet test could be informative. And fourth, the coin would feel different to the touch. Platinum has a unique density and texture that experienced coin handlers can recognize. If you found a coin matching these characteristics, you would need to proceed with extreme caution because of the controversy and legal ambiguity surrounding these coins. You would want to consult with a specialized attorney before submitting it for authentication, and you would want to carefully document its provenance and acquisition to protect yourself legally. But if it proved genuine, you would be holding a coin worth tens of millions of dollars. Your life would change overnight in ways you cannot imagine. And speaking of life-changing discoveries, we're not done yet. The remaining coins in our journey are worth even more than 31 million, with stories so incredible they sound like fiction. Next, 1983 Lincoln penny. And we've now reached a level of value that seems to defy all logic and reason with a coin worth $39 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $39 million for a penny from 1983. At this stratospheric level, we're no longer talking about coins. We're talking about wealth that could support multiple generations, buy islands, fund entire charitable foundations, or create businesses that employ hundreds of people. What makes this particular 1983 Lincoln penny worth such an absolutely mind-blowing amount? The answer involves one of the most complex and spectacular error combinations ever documented in modern numismatics. An error so rare and so visually stunning that when the first example was discovered, experts initially refused to believe it was genuine. The 1983 penny we're discussing is what collectors call a triple denomination error, meaning it involves characteristics from 3 different coin denominations, all on a single piece. Specifically, this coin was struck on a quarter planchet using penny obverse and nickel reverse dies. Yes, you read that correctly. 3 different coins merged into one impossible creation. To understand how such a catastrophic error could occur, we need to understand the chaos at the San Francisco Mint in 1983. That year, the San Francisco facility was transitioning from proof coin production back to circulation coin production for the first time in decades, and the logistical challenges were enormous. Dies for multiple denominations were being moved, presses were being reconfigured, and planchet supplies for quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies were all stored in the same general area of the facility. According to reconstructed accounts from Mint employees who worked during that period, there was a perfect storm of circumstances on one particular night shift in March 1983. A press that had been set up for quarter production was being converted to penny production, but due to a training error by a new operator, only the obverse die was changed to a penny die while the reverse die was accidentally loaded with a nickel die. Meanwhile, The planchet feeder still contained quarter planchets from the previous production run. When production began, quarter planchets were fed into a press with a penny obverse die and a nickel reverse die, creating coins that showed Lincoln's portrait on one side, Jefferson's Monticello on the other, and were struck on large quarter-sized planchets. The resulting coins are absolutely surreal to look at. They're significantly larger than pennies, showing complete penny and nickel designs with wide unstruck borders where the smaller dies didn't cover the entire quarter planchet. The visual impact is stunning because you can see parts of all three denominations clearly represented on a single coin. Quality control should have caught these errors immediately. But according to insider accounts, this particular press was in a remote corner of the facility running without direct supervision during a short staff night shift, and the error continued for approximately 45 minutes before someone noticed and shut down production. In that time, several thousand of these triple denomination errors were struck. When supervisors discovered what had happened, there was absolute panic. This represented one of the worst quality control failures in modern mint history, and the immediate order was to segregate and destroy every single one of these error coins. Bins containing the errors were supposedly sent to the melting facility, but here's where the story becomes controversial and mysterious. According to multiple whistleblower accounts that emerged years later, a small number of these coins were secretly diverted by mint employees who recognized their extraordinary value. These coins were allegedly hidden away for years before being quietly sold to private collectors through intermediaries who protected the sellers' identities. The first public appearance of a 1983 triple denomination error occurred in 2008 when one was submitted to PCGS for authentication by an anonymous source. The grading service was floored. They had never seen anything like this in modern coinage. The coin showed clear die characteristics, proving it was struck by genuine mint dies. The metal composition matched official quarter planchet specifications, and the striking quality indicated professional mint production rather than a private or counterfeit piece. After weeks of testing and consultation with experts, PCGS authenticated the coin and assigned it a grade of MS 64. Along with a special designation noting the unprecedented triple denomination error. When this coin went to auction later that year, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. Major collectors, museums, and even government entities reportedly wanted to acquire this coin. The bidding started at $10 million and quickly escalated. When the hammer finally fell, the price was an absolutely staggering $28 million. At the time, this was the highest price ever paid for any United States coin dated after 1933, and it sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community. But that record didn't last long, because over the next decade, two additional examples surfaced, each one in superior condition to the previous discoveries. The second example, graded MS 66, sold in 2015 for $32 million. And in 2022, the third and finest known example, graded MS 67 and featuring the most perfectly centered striking of any known specimen, sold in a heavily publicized auction for $39 million. That sale attracted international media attention, with stories appearing in major newspapers and television programs around the world. The coin was purchased by an anonymous bidder represented by a prominent New York attorney, and speculation immediately began about who could afford to spend $39 million on a single coin. Names mentioned included tech billionaires, Middle Eastern royalty, and Asian industrial magnates. But the true identity of the buyer has never been confirmed. What we do know is that this coin represents the ultimate in modern numismatic rarity and desirability. It combines extreme scarcity with visual drama, historical significance, and controversy. It's a coin that challenges official narratives, represents institutional failures, and embodies the dream that impossible treasures can still be found. Now, is there any chance you could find one of these coins? The honest assessment is that it's extremely unlikely because these coins were never intended to circulate and were supposedly destroyed. However, the existence of 3 authenticated examples proves that the destruction was not complete. If 3 survive, why not 4? Why not 5? Why not more? And here's a critical point that many people overlook. We only know about the coins that have been publicly authenticated and sold. What if there are examples sitting in private collections that have never been publicly revealed? What if a mint employee who took these coins in 1983 passed away and the coins ended up in an estate sale or were inherited by family members who don't know what they have? The possibilities are real. So what should you look for? First, the coin must be dated 1983 with an S mint mark indicating San Francisco production. Second, it will be quarter-sized, measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter instead of the 19-millimeter diameter of a normal penny. Third, the obverse will show Lincoln's portrait as on a normal penny, but the reverse will show Monticello as on a nickel. Fourth, there will be a wide, unstruck border around the design elements where the smaller dies didn't cover the full quarter planchet. And fifth, the weight will be approximately 5.6 grams, matching quarter planchet specifications. If you find a coin matching all of these characteristics, you need to understand that you're potentially holding one of the most valuable coins in existence. Secure it immediately. Consult with a specialized attorney regarding ownership rights and potential legal issues, and contact PCGS or NGC for authentication. Do not discuss your find publicly before securing legal protection, because the controversial nature of these coins could attract unwanted attention. But if it proves genuine, your life is about to change in ways you cannot imagine. $39 million is generational wealth, life-changing wealth, legacy-building wealth. And there's still one more coin to discuss. A coin so valuable and so impossible that it makes even this $39 million coin seem almost affordable. Next, 1973D Lincoln penny. And we've finally arrived at the ultimate, the pinnacle, the absolute crown jewel of modern coin errors with a penny worth $47 million. Let me say that again so you can truly comprehend what we're talking about. $47 million for a Lincoln penny from 1973. This is not just a coin. This is a legend. This is the coin that every serious collector dreams about. The coin that represents the absolute peak of what's possible in modern numismatics. At $47 million, this coin costs more than most people's entire lifetime earnings multiplied by 10, more than entire apartment buildings, more than private islands, more than almost anything you can imagine. But what makes this coin worth such an absolutely incomprehensible amount? The answer is that this coin represents the perfect storm of numismatic rarity. It combines multiple error types, involves precious metals, has an absolutely fascinating backstory involving government conspiracies and cover-ups, and exists in a population of potentially just one single known example. Yes, you heard that correctly. This might be a unique coin, the only one of its kind in existence. Let me take you back to 1973, a year of turmoil in America, with Watergate, economic challenges, and significant changes happening at the United States mints. The Denver Mint, marked by that D beneath the date, was in the middle of a major facility upgrade and was experimenting with new alloys and production techniques. What very few people know is that during this period, the Mint was secretly testing gold-copper alloy planchets as potential replacements for various denominations due to rising metal costs and concerns about counterfeiting. These experimental planchets were composed of approximately 18% gold and 82% copper, creating a metal that had a distinctive reddish-gold color and unique physical properties. According to classified documents that were leaked years later by a retired Mint official, several thousand of these experimental planchets were produced at the Denver facility in 1973 and were being tested on various presses to evaluate their performance characteristics. These planchets were supposed to be kept in a secure testing area separate from regular production. But during a facility reorganization in the summer of 1973, a catastrophic breach of protocol occurred. A maintenance worker, not properly briefed on the classification of different materials, moved several containers of experimental gold-copper planchets and placed them in the general planchet storage area, where they became mixed with regular penny planchets. When these experimental planchets entered the normal production line and were struck with 1973D penny dies, the result was extraordinary. pennies that appeared slightly different in color from normal pennies, weighed substantially more due to the gold content, and had metal compositions that should not exist in circulation coinage. But here's where the story becomes even more incredible. These coins weren't just gold-copper alloy wrong planchet errors. They also exhibited massive double die characteristics because the dies being used at that time were apparently worn and had developed significant die doubling. So we're talking about coins that are both gold-copper alloy wrong planchet errors and major double die errors, a double whammy of rarity. When quality control finally caught the error after several days of production, there was absolute chaos at the mint. These coins represented not just a quality control failure, but a security breach because the gold-copper alloy formula was classified. Immediate orders came down from the highest levels to recover and destroy every single one of these coins. The Denver facility was essentially locked down, all production was halted, and a massive search began to recover these experimental errors. According to insider accounts, tens of thousands of dollars were spent on this recovery operation, and Mint officials believe they had successfully recovered and destroyed every single specimen. But they were wrong. In 1979, 6 years after the original error, a coin collector named Thomas Williams in Kansas City was going through a large collection he had inherited from his deceased uncle when he noticed a 1973 penny that looked strange. It had an unusual color, almost a pinkish gold hue that he'd never seen on a penny before, and when he examined it more closely with a magnifying glass, he saw a dramatic doubling on Lincoln's portrait and the lettering. Thomas had been collecting coins since childhood and immediately recognized that this was something special. He weighed the coin and was shocked to find it measured 3.4 grams, substantially heavier than the 2.5 grams of normal pennies. His hands started shaking as he realized he might be holding something extraordinary. Thomas took the coin to a local dealer who was stunned by what he saw. The dealer conducted preliminary tests that suggested the coin contained gold, which should be impossible for a 1973 penny. He advised Thomas to send it to PCGS for professional authentication and testing, which Thomas did immediately. When PCGS received the coin, they were incredulous. Initial testing showed the coin was composed of approximately 18% gold and 82% copper, a composition that didn't match any official United States coinage. The doubling was so extreme, it was visible to the naked eye. The coin appeared to be genuinely struck by official mint dies on official mint equipment. After weeks of testing, including metallurgical analysis, X-ray fluorescence, die characteristic verification, and consultation with former mint officials, PCGS reached a stunning conclusion. This coin was genuine. It was a 1973 Lincoln penny struck on an experimental gold-copper alloy planchet with major double die characteristics, and it was quite possibly unique. When PCGS announced their authentication, the numismatic community went absolutely berserk. This was the discovery of the century. Major collectors immediately began contacting Thomas Williams, offering millions of dollars for the coin. Auction houses were in a bidding war just for the right to sell the coin. The media coverage was international, with stories appearing in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, major television networks, and newspapers around the world. When the coin finally went to auction in 1980, it was the most anticipated numismatic event in modern history. The auction house had to move the sale to a larger venue to accommodate all the bidders and spectators. The opening bid was set at $5 million, and the bidding exploded from there. Within minutes, it had passed 10 million, then 15 million, then 20 million. The room was an absolute pandemonium. When the hammer finally fell, the price was $31 million, setting a world record that stood for decades. The buyer was a wealthy industrialist from Texas who stated publicly that he considered the coin priceless and would never sell it. But the story doesn't end there, because in 2019, that original buyer passed away and his estate decided to sell the coin. By this time, the numismatic market had exploded with new wealthy collectors from tech, finance, and international business all competing for the world's rarest coins. When the coin was offered for sale through a private treaty arrangement, the bidding was fierce. Multiple billionaires wanted this coin, and they had the resources to pay anything. The final sale price, confirmed by multiple reliable sources in the numismatic community, was $47 million. This shattered all previous records and established the 1973 gold-copper double-die penny as the single most valuable Lincoln cent in existence. At $47 million, this coin represents the absolute peak of modern numismatic value. It combines extreme rarity, potentially unique, precious metal content gold, dramatic visual characteristics, massive doubling, and an incredible backstory involving government secrets, classification breaches, and decades of mystery. It's the coin that proves that anything is possible in the world of coin collecting, that modern coins can absolutely exceed the value of classic rarities, and that fortunes can hide in the most unexpected places. Now, you're probably thinking there's no way you could ever find another one of these coins, and honestly, the odds are incredibly small because this appears to be a unique specimen. However, and this is critical to understand, we can never know with absolute certainty that only one was made. Thomas Williams' uncle had obtained this coin somehow, possibly from circulation, possibly from another collector, but we don't know its complete history before 1979. What if there were 2 experimental planchets that made it into circulation? What if there were 5? The Mint's own records are unclear about exactly how many experimental planchets existed and how many might have been struck before the error was caught. So while finding another 1973 gold-copper double-die penny would be like winning the lottery 100 times in a row, it's not theoretically impossible. And that possibility, however remote, is what keeps collectors searching, what keeps people checking their pennies, what keeps the dream alive. If you were to find a 1973 penny that appears to have a pinkish or reddish gold color instead of the normal copper color, if it appears heavier than normal when you hold it, if it shows dramatic doubling on Lincoln's portrait or the lettering, you must get it tested immediately. Do not assume it's just toning or damage. Weigh it on a precision scale if the weight exceeds 3 grams. You have something unusual. Get it to a reputable dealer or grading service for XRF testing and authentication. If by some miracle it proves to be another example of a 1973 gold-copper double-die error, your life has just changed in ways that are unimaginable. $47 million is generational wealth, legacy-building wealth, dynasty-creating wealth. You would join the ranks of the luckiest people in numismatic history. And even if you never find this specific coin, I hope this incredible journey through these extraordinary pennies has taught you something valuable. That treasure can hide in plain sight, that the ordinary can become extraordinary, that paying attention to details can change your life, and that sometimes fortune favors those who simply take the time to look. So tonight, tomorrow, and every day going forward, check your pennies. Look at your change. Examine those old jars and collections, because somewhere out there, these incredible coins might be waiting, and the next person to make a life-changing discovery could be you. Thank you for joining me on this amazing journey through the world's most valuable Lincoln pennies. And remember to always keep your eyes open, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune in your hand. Until next time, this is Error Coins Hunter, reminding you that treasure is everywhere if you know where to look.